Tully, you are a relationship coach. You have a podcast that helps parents thrive in parenthood. You run healing retreats, have courses that helps couples learn how to thrive. You share that our intimate relationship can be our greatest source of growth, healing, and joy, and also our greatest source of stress, tension, and pain. Thank you so much for coming on the show with me today.
My pleasure. Yeah, looking forward to diving in and having a chat. Who knows where we'll end up, but happy to dive into all of the things. I feel like relationships and parenthood, there's so much stuff that doesn't get spoken about, and that's part of the problem. So yeah, looking forward to having a chat.
My aim today will definitely be addressing all of the things that don't get spoken about, that's for sure.
Yeah, nice one.
So if anyone who's listening didn't see, last year, Izzy and we completed Tully's Liberating Love mentorship or course program last year whilst I was pregnant with Sage. And it's something that I very much hold closely to my heart, that I strongly believe that all relationships should be investing in, I guess, coaching and learning how to communicate and seeing their shadows and addressing them. And it's something that I have preached to the choir, anyone that's willing to listen, that it's something that I think a course that I believe every couple should do. So for those listening, can you explain what a summary of Liberating Love?
Yeah, nice one. So, and I agree. I've gotten that feedback a lot after people go through it. They're like, this should be mandatory before you get married and before you have kids. So yeah, essentially, like in a nutshell, it's a combination of a curriculum with live coaching, and it just covers all the foundations and frameworks that we need to have a thriving relationship. So most people just wing it in relationships. It's just this thing that you should be able to do. It should work. And we just don't treat it like we treat anything else in our life, like our work, our, any hobbies or sporting endeavors. Like we know we need to train and learn new skills and all of that in every other area of life. But our relationships, we think it should just happen. And if it doesn't happen, there's something wrong with you or me or us or the relationship or whatever. And so the program just goes through a step-by-step process in understanding what goes on for us psychologically, biologically, and what contributes to the most common relationship challenges in breakdowns in communication, resentment, frustration, challenges with intimacy. Just provides couples with a clear framework and really simple to understand tools to be able to actually move forward. Because I feel like, and I've had this feedback a lot, people who have maybe tried therapy or counseling, they were like, it was good to have a space to share. And I'm a full proponent of that. We need space outside of our intimate relationship to voice challenges. But for a lot of people, it just stopped there, right? And so it's about having that space to open up, but also it's goal focused. It's where do we want to go? What do we want to create? And then how do we actually do that with a biological and psychological understanding of what it means to be human and to relate to one another.
Yeah, wow, I love that. One of the biggest things I learned from you is addressing resentment and unhealed things that we haven't spoken about, haven't got off our chest, because something that I found and I've spoken about in my own relationship is like when you address a feeling, it's like an invitation for the other person to throw all of these daggers at you that they've never brought up before. And it's like, whoa, 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 whoa. And I found that was really healing for Izzy and I, to be like, okay, when we are speaking about the way that we feel in that moment, we need to just learn how to, we're not trying to actually attack each other. We're here to work towards each other. And another thing you shared, and I was actually going to touch on this a little bit later, is like the standing side by side. Like we're a team and we're wanting actually the same goal. And that's to love each other deeper and have an open communication and have a really healthy foundation there. We both feel safe to share our feelings, not being fearful of the defensiveness and the attack based on the other person's past resentment.
Yeah, 100%. We don't get taught it. We don't have a blueprint for it. Most of us, if we look back what was modeled for us when it came to communication and conflict, it was either explosive or it was passive aggressive or it was just non-existent. And that's how we learn. That's how humans learn. Humans learn by modeling, right? Anybody who's listening to this who's got kids know what I'm talking about. It's like monkey see, monkey do. That's how we learn. And most of us weren't modeled how to just effectively express what's going on for us or to hold space for that. So it's a challenge that I find most people face, most couples face, unless they've intentionally developed the skill to do it. And it is a skill. That's my whole big thing. It's like all of this stuff, kind of like a mystery when you're in it. It's like, what is going on? Why do we keep struggling with this? And it's really frustrating and confusing and overwhelming, but it's all just little skills that we can learn. Right. And yeah, there's lots to it, and we can unpack the details of it if you would like. What happens is when we don't have the space to express those feelings, we hold on to them. Like you were talking about, all this stored resentment, and they're like little bricks. It's like something happens and it's like, I have a feeling of resentment, but I don't voice it, because every time I voice it, we end up in an argument. So I'm not going to do that. So I'm just going to hold on to it. It's not worth it. So I just hold on to it. So I stack a brick. Another thing happens, I stack another brick. And over the course of months and years, we stack all these bricks and we build up this wall between us. And then we wonder why the intimacy is not as spontaneous, or we wonder why we feel distant from one another. It's because we've been slowly, without realizing it, building this wall in between us of unexpressed, unvoiced feelings. And what happens then is there's nothing wrong with feeling resentment. Like feeling resentment is a natural byproduct of a situation that we perceive to be unfair. Like if we perceive something is unfair, we'll feel resentful about that situation, right? Normal response to a situation that we perceive to be unfair. What happens is when we don't voice it, we hold on to it. And then the next time we hold on to it, and we go from feeling feelings of resentment to being resentful, two very different things, right? And being resentful in a relationship, that's when the distance can start to grow and the damage can really start to be done. Whereas if we can normalize these feelings and not make each other wrong about it, it's like, well, of course you're feeling resentful. You're stuck at home with the kids, overstimulated as hell, and you feel like your partner's got the easier job because he's going out to work or whatever. Like feeling resentful in that moment makes a lot of sense if we can remove the story and not take it personally. And it's about learning to create this space so that we can, like you say, be on the same team and hold that space for each other rather than attacking each other.
So what would you say for those and myself listening, that if someone were to come to you and tell you something that you made them feel, and your first line of defense, the attack is just to defend yourself, and therefore you're not actually listening. You don't have to agree or disagree to what they're saying is wrong or right, but understanding that someone you love is telling you that what you've done has hurt them. How can you as a person learn to soften and tell your body you're safe? Because it's kind of like a fight or flight response, isn't it?
Yeah. It's all a dynamic and it's a team. It's always a two-way street, and it's a dynamic. We can do stuff ourselves. Like, and I say this to people all the time, I work with people where I'm not working with both people, I'm just working with one person, and that's enough to shift the relationship. So that can happen. And the reason, you got the results you did in the program, and so many couples do, is because when both people are working at it, it's just like 1 + 1 = 10. Like, it's just so much better. But with that, the answer to that happens before that conversation is even happening, because how that's delivered will determine how easy it is to not be defensive. Because Kat could deliver that upset in a way that would make it extremely hard for me not to get defensive. If she came out, and even if she's saying the right words, if, she's pointing the finger, if a natural response to feeling attacked is to defend. And so it's understanding that, okay, am I sharing this in a way that is actually pointing the finger? Am I saying you made me feel, you're being selfish, you? Your partner's going to get defensive if that's what you're saying. And so learning to express it in a way that minimizes the chance of defensiveness is a really important first step. The other thing is creating the context for these conversations. So what I mean by, I call them like container conversations. This kind of dialogue isn't the kind of thing we would drop while we're trying to get dinner ready and the kids are being hectic, right? Because we're already in a heightened state. And so we're already, the likelihood that we're going to get defensive is astronomically higher. Whereas if we've got something that's like this, creating space, it's like, hey, like, when can we have time to have a present chat? And in the world of parenthood, present conversations are rare, right? And so we need to be highly intentional about creating this space so that we can sit, take a breath, and actually be present with each other and pre-frame it. Hey, I've got something that it's really important for me to share. We don't need to come up with a solution. I just really want to let you in on my world and what's been going on for me. Right. So it's framed like in a way that there's going to be a lot more openness to that. Right. Does that make sense? First of all?
100%. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And then, so that happens before the point of potential defensiveness. And then when we can feel that defensiveness rising, again, it's a natural response if we feel attacked. And so the first thing that we can do when we feel that coming up is to actually just name it. It's like, oh, I'm feeling defensive. I know you're not attacking me, but I'm feeling defensive, or I'm feeling like I want to shut down and withdraw, or actually naming the things that's happening. Because what people try to do is just hold on. They start feeling this way, but then they'll just try to keep listening and ignore how they're feeling. But they're not there anymore. They're not present. I'm sure you've had this experience. You can tell your partner's not there anymore. He's either shut down or whatever, and he's still there sitting there nodding, but he's not actually present. And so just owning our limitations, owning the fact that we can get defensive, owning the fact that we can get frustrated or triggered, and naming it helps dissolve it in the moment, right? So, yeah, so that's the first thing. And that's in real time, that's what you can do. And then the next thing is understanding, and this is why I was talking about understanding how our psychology and our biology works. Because when we know what's happening behind the scenes, we can be less overtaken by the story. Because let's just say Kat comes to me, she expresses something that I've done. That's resulted in her upset. If I'm feeling defensive, I'm going to go into the story that this always happens. She doesn't appreciate what I'm doing. If I'm working too much or whatever the thing is, and I've got my little story, my rehearsed story that I'll start to tell in my own mind. Whereas if I can recognize, hey, I'm getting a bit triggered here, I'm less attached to that story. I can take a breath, regulate myself, remind myself that we're on the same team, and come to that conversation in a much more regulated, open state. Easier said than done, right? When you're actually in the heat of it. And I'm sure even after going through the program and learning all these skills and tools, you guys would still be caught in the moment and it's like, boom, it's there. And you slip back before you catch it, right? But you do catch it, but it's like this stuff runs really deep, and knowing it intellectually is only one part of the puzzle, right? And then there's deeper work to do behind the scenes, which I can speak to if you would like as well. But that's more of the in the moment stuff.
So going to if you are disconnected from how you feel, because just for a quick summary, I'm working with Marion Rose at the moment, who Aware
Mm-hmm.
Parenting. I'm not sure if you're aware of her, and it's about being able to listen to feelings basically within
Mm-hmm.
your kids. Because I notice as I really struggle to listen to emotions and hold space for emotions, so I was like, okay, this is the invitation to look into why, and it has really shown me how disconnected I am from my own feelings and emotions. And, I'm trying to hold space for a child and teach her, like, how are you feeling right now? And trying to teach her to navigate and understand the difference between angry and frustrated and sad, and
Mm-hmm.
that they're all your feelings, while also realizing, fuck, I have no idea how I feel. And there's been moments where I've felt really upset, but I've said I'm okay. And
Mm-hmm.
I'm in this massive shift and realizing that I've built this mask my whole life that I'm like, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay, I'm okay. And there's one thing about kids, they'll shine that torch on your shadows,
Yeah.
and you've built up this mask that I'm this strong woman and I'm
Mm-hmm.
fine with all of this. And then underneath, it's like, holy shit, I'm soft, I'm sensitive,
Mm-hmm.
I don't like hurting anybody's feelings. I don't like
Mm-hmm.
confrontation. It makes me uncomfortable. And so, how I want to bring this back to my question is, if you aren't aware of how you feel and you feel really uncomfortable telling
Mm-hmm.
somebody how you really feel because you're scared of what their reaction may be, how
Mm-hmm.
can we as parents, and even before we become parents, get more in touch with the trueness of what's
Mm-hmm.
actually going on in our body?
Yeah, such a good question. And it's an ongoing journey, right? As you're experiencing right now. Yeah, there's layers to it. And initially what I offer is start with bodily sensations, right? So start with just an awareness of our body, because that's where our feelings live, right? Yeah. And we might not have the awareness to feel sensations in our body and recognize, hey, that means I'm feeling upset, and then be able to voice that. Like, that's actually a highly emotionally intelligent thing to be able to do, which a lot of us got rewarded for not doing, whether it's because we people pleased and we were always good because that made everybody else happy, or we just actually just shut down and fully disconnected from our emotions because we grew up in a turbulent household that was unsafe for us, or whatever it is. We develop these strategies to keep ourselves safe. And a lot of that often involves abandoning our own felt experience one way or another. Some of us do it by fighting, some of it it's people pleasing, some of it it's just shutting down and withdrawing. We figure out a way, yep, to do it. And so it's recognizing when we're trying to come back into our body, so to speak, because we've disconnected from that, start with the sensations, because that's what you'll have more awareness around. So you might not know what you're feeling, quote unquote, but you might know that, okay, I've got tightness in my stomach. So you start with that. Okay, I'm feeling tightness in my stomach, or I'm tightness in my chest or my throat, or I feel heaviness, or whatever it might be. Like, start to just map the physical sensations. I often like give this to guys to start, because guys are often like, yeah, really disconnected from what's going on, but physical sensations they can start with. Because then what happens is you start to map like, oh, this tightness in my solar plexus that I just thought was normal is actually angst that I have 90% of the time. It's like, oh, that's fear. Oh, I'm scared right now, which might sound weird. Do you know what I mean? Because I feel it like all the time. But it's recognizing that these feelings are feedback, and we've got, all humans have access to all range of emotions, right? And when we learn to work with them, they're actually really valuable allies, because it's feedback with what's going on, and they all have a benefit, right? We think they get in the way and they suck and they're annoying, right? And they're hard, but it's actually feedback, yeah, as to what's going on for us. So starting with a physical sensation, and then the real kicker is doing the deeper work, right? And by that I mean exploring the root of when we disconnected from it. And I'm sure you've started to do this, right? You're talking about these masks, and it's like, okay, well, when did I start doing that? When did I decide I needed to do that? Okay, so there's a small, younger version of me that it wasn't safe to feel upset. It wasn't safe to get angry. My anger got squashed. And so I just completely disconnected from it. And it's going back into and accessing those parts of ourselves and giving those parts of ourselves a voice. And when we do this, it can be quite confronting. It can be quite upsetting. It's quite painful, yeah, to really face off with this stuff. And it's why a lot of people avoid it, even unconsciously. But what I offer, especially if you're hearing this and you're like, oh, yeah, I can see how that might be there for me, or no, that's probably, I don't really resonate with that. If you've got kids, like, look at your kids and tell me that your kids don't feel a lot. And you were once a kid. You were once a 4, 5, 6-year-old kid. You were feeling a lot. And for one way, shape, or form, you got the feedback that it wasn't okay to have that experience, and you learnt to do something else with it. And so until we can give ourselves permission to own that and to feel that within ourselves, we will judge it and be triggered by it when it shows up externally. If I have been denying my pain for 35 years and sadness or upset or grief, and that hasn't been part of my experience, when that shows up in my partner, I'm not going to know how to be with that. So I'm going to either try and fix it, or I'm going to shut it down, or I'm going to dismiss it, or I'm going to do something with it. But what I'm not going to be able to do is just what's required, and that's just to be with it and love it. Same in our kids, right? Our partner and our kids, like, they're the mirrors. And until I can hold space and be with that part of myself, I won't be able to authentically do it for my kids or for my partner. And that's the initiation of parenthood. It's like, there's no getting out of it. If you want to do it in a present way, there's no escaping that level of inner work. So yeah, that was a long answer to that question, but I just feel like there's the tactical stuff, like, yeah, focus on the bodily sensations and all of that. But really, you've got to dive in and explore this stuff. And it's painful and uncomfortable. And, get support to do it. Like you're working with this lady. There's lots of different great skilled practitioners that can support you with this, but it's just committing to doing it. And it's recognizing that, and this is the overlay to intimate relationships, is we give our kids so much grace, right? We do very rarely give our partners that same grace. Yet it's a similar thing, right? A lot of the time, we're not dealing with an adult and we're not being an adult. We're in this child psychology, this reactive child psychology, playing out all this old shit. And we need to give ourselves a bit more grace and our partner a bit more grace, just like we give our kids grace, knowing that, like, oh, we did not learn how to do this. We did not learn how to be with our emotions, our experience, and we've actually spent our lives doing the opposite and being rewarded for it. Do you know what I mean? Like, strong, independent woman, like operator, all these, the upside is massive. We get so rewarded for it. So it's hard to break the cycle and come back to ourselves in that way. But it's the only way forward if we want fulfilling relationships.
I really want to go more into parenthood because I know a lot of my community are parents, but let's just go backwards a little bit. So I'm just thinking about couples prior to having kids.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of talk online, especially about the masculine feminine framework. And it's something that I definitely looked into and I definitely resonated with a lot because I could definitely see that a lot of women are building up that, like, yeah, the strong independent woman and the masculine and the leader and they need to be in control, which obviously, as we know now, it's trauma, right? We've done that to keep ourselves protected. It's a safety
Mm-hmm.
mechanism. So
Mm-hmm.
before having kids, what would you recommend to couples in order for women to feel like their man is capable of leading and making
Mm-hmm.
decisions, and whilst also a woman being able to soften, and because a lot of people are chasing the traditional but also aren't willing to be it.
Mm.
Do you know what I'm
Mm.
trying to say?
Yeah, 100%. Like, social media, it's a funny place, right? Because there's lots of shoulds, right? And depending on how the algorithms got us, right, we get fed a lot of shoulds, and it's like, oh, you should be a trad wife, you should be soft and bake sourdough and do all this stuff, right? And it's like, oh, should you? Maybe, if that's what you're into, right? And so and for context, like, I was deep in the world of Tantra, masculine feminine dynamics 9 years ago, right? Before it was trending on Instagram. Used to teach these frameworks, not religiously, but it was like a core pillar of what I teach. You would have noticed that those pillars are not in the relationship mastery program because they can be beneficial. They can also they can throw people curveballs as well. So what I find more beneficial is learning about attachment styles, because that is less gender specific. And even though everybody's like, oh, it's masculine and feminine, it's not gender, it's just the two energies, and everybody's got both of these energies inside them. And we say this little spiel. Language is powerful, and we will still associate feminine with women and masculine with men when we're talking about it. And a lot of people online use them interchangeably still. And so that's what I want to just start with. Like, my personal take on all of this is there can be some value in it if you really honestly click with it. And if you don't, cool. Don't feel like you need to, right? So going back to more specifically, because that being said, like, wanting your partner to be able to make decisions and be decisive and being able to soften all of these things, like, you want to know thyself, like, know who you are, because most people don't, right? This is the whole, like, question around, I'm going off on a bit of a tangent, but I'm just going to roll with it. Like, the whole masculine, what does it mean to be a man? For me, it's like, know who you are, know your strengths, know your weaknesses, and be that fully. And for some men, that is going to be more softness and there is going to be more nurturing capacity there. And for others, that isn't as naturally a superpower for them, right? And so yeah, I really like to get away from these boxes of this is what a man should be, this is what a woman should be, and this is what a relationship should be, because it's just not the way. It's just, I've worked with hundreds of couples now, and I've seen so many different variations of ways that it can work that you can't convince me otherwise. So that's my little rant. But with that, like leading up to parenthood, it's getting clear on actually being intentional about how you want the relationship to look, right? Because that might be this more traditional setup, yeah, and it might not. And it's like, are we on the same page here? Because we all have these unconscious expectations of the way we think things are going to go, right? So based on my story and blueprint, I'll have the beliefs around, okay, when we get married, that means this. That means we merge finances. That means you cook and clean and I earn the money. That means all these fucking things. And I'll have this list and you'll have your list. And unless we talk about these lists, we will both go in. And if those things line up, then all good. We're sweet. If those things don't line up, we're fucked, right? And I mean fucked as in we're going to have to do a lot of work to come back on the same page. Yep. And so it's more like, what do we want to create? What is the vision for our relationship? How do we want to be? How do you want to be? Yep. And getting clear on that and having those conversations. Like, how do we want to, it's the agreements piece, right? From module 1. It's like, okay, what's the vision of what we want to create? What agreements do we have that we're intentionally going to build to bring it to help move us towards that vision? And the whole masculine, feminine frame might support that and it might not. Yep. Either which way, being decisive is a good thing, right? So there are these certain characteristics and qualities that are going to help. And I look at it through the lens of these nervous system adaptations, not necessarily through the masculine, feminine lens, because, for example, what you were referencing before, that women sort of more in their masculine, that's just a woman developing a fight response. Okay, I'm going to keep myself safe because dad wasn't around or whatever, and I see the world, and how I do that is I go fight for my own independence, and I'm stuck in fight, and so I'm fight, and that leads to burnout, right? And so a lot of culturally, there's a lot of women getting that message. There's also a lot of men that are like, to be honest, scared to be a fucking man, right? Because there's so much negativity around it. So they might drop into more of that appease strategy. Okay, how do I create safety? Yep, you're right. Let me help you. Nice guy, people pleasing. Yep. And that is often what gets brought together. This sort of fight, hyper independence, and this appeasing. And that's, I think, what you were referencing with that indecisiveness in men. It's like, well, what do you want to do? Well, whatever you want to do, babe. Like, so it's
Make a fucking decision.
yeah. Tell me what we're having for dinner, for fuck's sake.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so it's recognizing that, like, yeah, it removes the judgment and the dogma when we can look at it from a biological standpoint. Like, these are nervous system adaptations. Yep. And we've all got them. So it's like, not do we have them? We've all got them. What are they? What are yours? What are mine? How are they playing out? And how do we sort of start to heal the parts of us that needed to develop them so we can just step more into our sovereignty? Because most people are spending a lot of time in child psychology because I've had either significantly traumatic events or lots of, micro traumatic events. So we disconnect from our authenticity, and there's no rites of passage. And so we're in adult bodies, but a lot of the time we're operating from childhood or sort of teenage psychology. And just reflect back to the last 10 arguments you've had. That wasn't two adults in the room discussing things, right? That was two kids having a tantrum, or like, do you know what I mean? So it's like, oh, we need to recognize that we are both have the capacity to drop into this and heal the parts of ourselves and take the responsibility, the divine responsibility of being the person that gets to help our partner heal those parts of themselves too. It's not a burden, right? What a gift. What an honor. Yeah, to be able to be this space for each other rather than thinking we've got our shit sorted out and they're the problem. It's like, probably not the case, right? You've probably both got your shit to work on. And so, yeah, that's what I would offer is get intentional about the vision. What do we want to create? Because it can look a million different ways. And if you're overwhelmed, find people who have actually got what you want, not Instagram got what you want, right? Not I'm a polarity coach and this is what you should have. Like, actually people who are 5-10 years along the journey, maybe even longer, they've got a happy relationship and they've done it in a way that resonates with you. And Ask them, right? What did it take? Yeah. Because we need, like I say, modeling is how we learn best. Yeah. But really, it's we get to decide how it looks. And when we understand our biology, because there are differences in men and women. Do you know what I mean? Like, no doubt. And it's also, there's just, we're humans first, and there's some human stuff we need to acknowledge. And then there's some biological differences. Do you know what I mean? Men have a 24-hour cycle, women have a 28-ish day cycle. Like, we need to understand this stuff if we're going to be able to support each other and be good teammates. So yeah, let me know if you want me to dive into anything else. It was a bit of a rant.
No, that was really good. Now coming into, okay, you've been together and you know you're going to be together and he's going to be your baby daddy, and you know that you guys are going to have kids and get married, or maybe you already got married. What then when you've brought a baby into the world?
Mm-hmm.
And, I'm going to speak in behalf of most of the women inside my community are co-sleeping,
Yeah.
breastfeeding for years on end, so they're touched out. Let's just get into the sex. Like,
Mm,
if you've gone from, a very intimate relationship and you have a child, a man may be feeling like she doesn't want him anymore when really she's just fucking touched
cooked.
out.
Cooked.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So yeah, huge challenge. Like the biggest thing that pops up, I think, is communication. Like a lot of the time, pre-kids, we don't need to talk about a lot of stuff. Like if you've got naturally a pretty good dynamic, it just happens. Do you know what I mean? You're just having sex. You're just happy with each other. You haven't had to be overly intentional about it. You can kind of just wing it and things are pretty good most of the time, right?
There's just so much time. When you reflect on
Yeah.
those years, there's so
Yeah. Oh
much.
my God. And we used to think we were busy. I laugh.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh my God. It's like you cannot get away with that with parenthood, especially if you are co-sleeping, attachment-based parenting. You can't get away with winging it in your relationship anymore. Sorry. Like just it's not going to happen. So it's how you work on your relationship. You can decide, maybe you're going to get couples therapy, counseling, do a program, do something. You choose what works for you, but it's not a matter of if, it's a matter of what. Like you need to do something and you need to get some support. It's, again, I used to be a bit more like, oh yeah, see how you go, et cetera, et cetera. And I've just seen it too many times now that I'm pretty certain of that fact, right? And so there's that. And then there's the being willing to communicate it. And often if you've done what we said before and been like, how are things going to look, right, when we have a baby? Like, what does work look like? How much time are you having off? Does mum want to go back to work or not want to go back to work? Does, like, what's the plan? What's sex going to look like? That gets to be a conversation, right? So that we've got some idea. And again, speaking to, if we've got a midwife or if we've got a coach or if we've got somebody that can guide those conversations, even better, because then we're not just winging it. But it's ideally you've had conversations about how things can look. 95% of people don't do that. So then you end up postpartum 6 months in and you're like, holy fuck, this is not what I expected, right? From either person. Because what happens is a lot of the nurturing female goodness that we used to receive from our partner is now being redirected, as it should, towards this small human. And that can be a big shock to our systems, right? And so it's understanding that, both people understanding that, because it's very easy to say, oh, just fucking get on with it, right? Like, of course, like, just get on with it. This is the way it is. And because the hard part is, like, I agree, especially in those early days, that's the way it should be. It's like, guys, just like take the hit, do the thing. This is your role as a provider, as a father, is to nurture the mother baby dyad. Like that's the most important thing you can be doing. Yep. And we still need a seat at the table, because I find a lot of guys start with that and then they don't get a seat at the table again. And then 3 months turns into 6 months, turns into 9 months, turns into 12 months, turns into like, and this is where resentment builds both ways, right? So there's communicating our expectations and being able to maintain a space of open dialogue, right? Which takes effort because we're talking about hard things. And this goes back to what we're talking about, feelings of resentment versus being resentful. you need a space where you can say, hey, I'm feeling frustrated. Hey, I'm feeling a bit resentful. Hey, I'm feeling this. Do you know what I mean? Because if we don't have that space, then we just harbor it and the gap gets bigger. And then we wonder why intimacy is not there. And it's like, because there's a big brick wall of resentment and frustration between us. Yeah. But it hasn't been communicated. It hasn't been spoken about. And so that's the first thing, like communication. And then it's understanding that things get to be different. Often we want to get things back to the way they were, or when's the sex going to get back to the way it was, or when are we, and it's just not. Like those two people that weren't parents, they're dead now, right? That relationship isn't coming back. That sex life isn't coming back. You guys get to go somewhere new, right? And what does that look like? Because especially for women, so much changes physically, mentally, emotionally, spiritually that, and I'd love to hear your experience, but you're a different human being in all facets on the other side of that. And so to think things aren't going to change sexually is a ridiculous concept. But that's often that's how we approach it. We just want to do things the way we've always done it. And so creating a space for newness and a space to reconnect intimately and sexually that isn't just jumping back on the horse the way that we've always done it is a really important part of the process, I have found, because then it's an exploration rather than an expectation, right? Because often we have these expectations of the way it should be and the way it could be, et cetera, rather than discussing and coming together with what does that look like now? Yeah. And so the final thing I'll say is the biggest thing I find people will, especially with the touched out thing as well, is a lot of the time women will be touched out. And so the thought of having sex is like exhausting. I don't know if you can relate to that. You're like, oh my God, I couldn't think of anything worse. Yeah, I bet the last time you had sex on the other side of it, you were like, fuck, that was so good. I feel so much better. Right. So there's this paradox. Yeah. And so it's taking sex from being this 100% or nothing mentality. We're either having full blown sex or no, that's not on the cards. So let's just not do anything. And it's expanding our definition of intimacy and how we can connect sexually through touch, through play, through exploration. And it might not mean we're having penetrative sex, but we're still connecting sexually. We're still, inviting that charge between us. Because a lot of the time, what happens is we have that 100% or zero mentality. 100% feels exhausting, so we don't do anything. And then we just stack days of not accessing this energy between us. And it just gets harder and harder and weirder, and the frustration builds up and builds up. And so it's, yeah, an analogy that one of my friends uses is it's like going to a restaurant and there's only one thing on the menu. That's having penetrative sex. If you don't feel like eating that thing tonight, what are you going to do? Go hungry, right? Whereas we want more things on the menu. Like, what are different ways we can connect? Yeah, that allow us to keep the embers burning. We might not have the blazing inferno that we once had, but how do we keep the embers hot and the fire going a little bit? Yep. Because that will often be nourishing and expand our capacity for deeper sexual connection the next day or the next week or whatever. And it's about these sort of, I call it the 5% rule. Going from 0 to 100, we might not know how to do that. It's like, oh, that feels overwhelming. But how can we invite 5% more intimacy into the relationship? 5% more sexual chemistry, right? Well, we probably can answer that question. So I was like, we'll do that. And then you do that again, and then you do that again, and then you do that again. And then before you know it, the spark, right? The elusive spark starts to come back.
So now they've had a baby and they may be feeling like their whole, the man has gone from having this girlfriend that he can basically look at and they're on. And then now it's gone to their parents and she has gone through this portal and, she's, I guess the maiden's died. She's now a mother and the man hasn't yet gone through that same, what's the analogy?
Yeah, it's interesting because there aren't even like as clearer words for this. You know, it's like, what is it, man to father? Like, what's the male word for maiden? Like, I reflect on this a lot because that transition is way less automatic for men. Whereas women, all of the signals are happening biologically. So, like, all of the hormonal changes, all of it, you're almost forced through the initiation because you're growing the baby. It's all happening inside you. Whereas with men, a lot of the hormonal adaptations that are required for that bonding with child, etc., all of the triggers are environmental. So it depends on how much present time they're having with pregnant belly, with if they're at the birth or not, what's their experience of the birth, are they present there, postpartum, how much time do they have with baby? That will impact the neurological changes that happen. And if guys are not physically or mentally, emotionally present, then they don't go through as significant changes at that time. So there's this gap, right? Significant shift in initiation for mum, mild to moderate for dad. And then that's where a lot of people like, I feel like he can't meet me. Or it's like do you know what I mean? He feels far away or she feels far away or whatever. Often that's what's happened. And so yeah, it requires a different level of intentionality that guys are not supported with. Like there aren't things set up for it, right? And that's a real problem. It's a real challenge. Yeah. So unless they've got men around them that have been through it, that can provide some guidance, that can answer those questions, it can be extremely challenging.
So, if a woman's listening to this and she wants to send it to her man because they're new parents,
Yep.
and their sex lives hasn't been the same, and she feels guilty for that, because she's
Mm,
aware that he wants more, but she just has nothing more to give him, but she wants something more from him. And he's used to just the physical touch, but she needs emotional safety and connection. What would you
yeah.
say to him that she needs in the best form?
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can obviously only speak in generalities. Like I can't be a voice for, all men, let alone women. Do you know what I mean? So this is obviously just general stuff. But what I hear a lot is this dynamic. I need more emotional connection and safety. And on the flip side, the man needs more physical connection, and then he can open up more emotionally. And so we end up in this stalemate, right? Who's going to give in? Yep. Whose needs are more important? Yep. And typically, if you look at the landscape, right, the relationship coaching landscape, talking about it, verbal communication is hot, like almost over indexed, right? It's like we think that's communication. And there's so much non-verbal communication that plays into relationships just as much as verbal communication, right? And so answering your question, speaking to the men, it's inviting in a level of curiosity, yeah, to re-meet your partner with where they're at now, because they might not have required this depth of connection before becoming a mum. They're a different woman now. And so just because they require different things doesn't mean you're doing anything wrong, right? A lot of the time it can be taken personally because guys might not be good at it. Guys might not be good at holding space, at asking those questions, at exploring it. And we don't like not being good at things, right? So, like, I don't want to delve into these deep conversations if I think I'm going to fuck it up or if do you know what I mean? So, there's this resistance to it. And so, it's just, yeah, if you're a guy listening to this, it's just bring in a level of curiosity to your partner rather than, yeah, treating it like a burden. And this is just a shift in mindset. It's like this is either an opportunity to get to know my partner at a deeper level and create something new, even if it feels different for me. And I would rather it'd be easier if things just went back to the way that they were. They're not going to, right? So it's lean into that. And your needs are important too, to the fellas listening to this as well. And to the ladies listening, his needs are important too. Yep. And most guys are really bad at knowing what their needs and desires are. And even if they know, they're really bad at voicing them. Right. And so because they don't do that, if our partners get really good at voicing theirs, it's almost like it's triggering. And that's where exactly what you said very early on in the conversation, they voice something that's hard for them. It's triggering for us. And it's like, well, you know what? This is really hard for me. And I haven't said any of these million things. And so it's understanding that we both need to get better at voicing our desires. Yep. But that comes from a level of curiosity. And so, yeah, for the fellas, it's it's a challenge, right? But it's not going back to the way it was. And so wishing it would is just going to create more suffering for yourself and for the relationship. And so just leaning into that curiosity, but don't be a martyr either. Don't be like, just, yes, babe, whatever you say, babe, of course, babe, because that will last for a little bit and that'll feel good for a little bit because your partner will love that. And be willing to have the difficult conversations where you bring your stuff as well, right? Because, yeah, I see when guys are unwilling, the challenges pop up straight away. When guys are too willing, the challenges pop up a year later, where the guy's just been giving, communicate, but not owning the fact that actually, like, this is what I want from our sex life. This is what I want. They don't feel like they can put that on their partner anymore, and they don't take it anywhere else, and it just festers. And then it starts to blow out in behaviors that are not ideal. So it's be curious and be open and come forward towards your partner, but don't leave your stuff at the door long term. Obviously, in that immediate postpartum, like fourth trimester, leave your stuff at the door. It really is just about your partner and healing and baby, etc. But that's not a good long-term strategy.
I have a community question for you
Mm-hmm.
that a woman has said, whenever I bring something up, my partner gets defensive. I end up either shutting down or feeling like it's just too hard to say anything. So therefore I don't go into sharing how I feel because I'm scared of the reaction.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. One thing we can do is look at, and we kind of spoke to this before, look at how it's being shared, right? And this is, and you might remember this from the communication module, but separating intention and impact, right? Because a lot of the time when I say to my partner, or like, when you did this, it made me feel, right? And it is attributing blame, even if even if we're saying it calmly. What we don't want as humans is to be misunderstood in our intentions. So if Kat comes to me and she's like, when you did this, it impacted me in this way. Yeah. Or I feel like you're being selfish. I feel like you're X, Y, and Z. I feel like we're using the words I feel, but we're talking about a story and an analysis of our partner. So in my analysis, you're being selfish. But we use the word I feel because our feelings are valid and it means we can say anything after those two words. So unless we're ending the sentence with one word that is a feeling, we're not talking about our feelings, right? So what I would offer anybody who's having this challenge is really just check in with, oh, hang on, where am I analyzing them? Or where am I blaming them? Or where am I pointing the finger, even though I'm doing it calmly or nicely? And taking ownership of what's the actual felt experience. And then we want to separate intention and impact, because we might not know their intention, right? But always assume positive intent is a pretty good way to approach these things. And it can be as simple as saying something like, I know it's probably not your intention because I know that you love me, but when you worked late and didn't message me, it left me feeling this way. That is much more digestible than you've been selfish this week and you haven't been messaging me like I've asked, right? Which of those two is going to evoke more defensiveness, right? The second one, because it's like pointing the finger. And so finding ways to communicate these things that evoke less defensiveness is something that we can do if our partner is being defensive. And yeah, there's whole systems that you can run through with this, like the self-understanding audit. I don't know if you remember that, but it's basically checking in where we can analyze a situation and be like, okay, what actually happened? What did I make it mean? Like, what story am I telling? That's the analysis. And then beneath that is what am I actually feeling? I'm feeling hurt. I'm feeling upset. Okay, what need do I have here? What desire do I have? What we want to focus on communicating is my felt experience and the need or desire. Whereas what we often communicate is our analysis of the other person, which isn't necessarily true. That's just our analysis. That's just the story we're telling. Yep. I might say, or Kat might say, you're selfish because you worked late and you didn't message me. Whereas my intention was to provide for the family and be selfless. I don't want to be at fucking work, right? So my intention is actually a selfless intention, but I'm being ascribed the label of being selfish. Of course, I'm going to defend myself, right? And so there are these subtleties in the way that we are communicating things that can really shift the needle in how things are received. Yep. So that's something that this person and anybody, because that's a super common problem, by the way. Like, it's probably the most requested question I get from women is, I try to bring this up, my partner gets defensive. What do I do? Like, it's super common. So that's what you can do. And then what he needs to be able to do is explore the defensiveness, right? It's like, oh, that's interesting. Like, why do I get so defensive about that? Right. And that's what he's got to do. But you can't do that for him. Yep. So just go all in on what you can do for you and how you can communicate things, because you can't do his push-ups for him. Right. The other thing you can do is when things are good, right? Like when you're connected and things are good, speak about the challenging thing. So that might be like, hey, whenever we have this chat, it always seems to go that same way. Like, what can I do in those situations to make it easier for you? Like, how can I, if I've got something to share, I want to be able to share that. And I'm sure you want me to be able to share things in that relationship. Like, how can I do that in a way that you're more open to? Do you know what I mean? So you start to work as a team, not in those moments of trigger or moments of defensiveness. When you're in those, like, no good comes from those places, right? You've just got to try to repair as best you can. And then when you're feeling good as a team, work, like, yeah, discuss it, like, and ask questions. Like, yeah, my intention isn't to upset you, but I'm upsetting you when I bring these things to you. Like, what is it, the way that I'm doing it? Is it the words that I'm saying? Like, what is it? And be genuinely curious to hear what he has to say, because there'll be some gold there. And I feel like, yeah, it gets missed a lot. Yep. So don't assume we're more switched on than our partner. I see this happening a lot, right? Yeah, we think because we can speak more words, we think we're more emotionally intelligent. Yeah, it's not necessarily always the case. And so just having the humility to self-reflect and be like, hey, there's a chance I might have more work to do here than I realize. Yeah. And I hear this a lot from most of the women that do the program, right? We'll get a month in and on the women's call, and I'll ask, like, who here joined this program thinking it would fix their partner and hoping it would fix their partner? And all of them put their hand up, and I'm like, who here now realizes they're a bit more of the problem than they realized? And all the women put their hand up, and I'm like, there you go. Like, it's like, there's so much more I could be doing. Yeah, I probably think there's all this stuff he needs to do because he's being defensive. And it's like, sure, 100%, he's got his stuff to do. But yeah, you do as well. And what I've offered is a few of those things, but just that perspective shift can change the game, because if we're attributing blame, our partner will feel that from us. So if Kat thinks I'm the problem in the relationship, I'll be able to sense that, and then I'll react accordingly, right? And so it's just nipping that dynamic in the butt a little bit. I'd love to hear your experience with that. I saw you nodding before. Like, it is a common one.
It is a very common one. Oh, my mind's gone into a few different tangents, and I'm trying to mentally note down what to say next, because there's so many different paths and so little time that we could really go down. Coming into kids now, so I'm trying to do the timeline. So now
Yep.
we've got
Yep.
kids, and you got 3. We'll just go into 3. When your child has gone from being kind of under your control, like you're able to pick them up and take them where you want to go at the time you want to go, and then there's this little child that now has their say, and and so you're trying to navigate, and then over the top of your conversations, you've got constant stimuli of noise and screaming and voices and no and this and physical touch. That's just a lot. let's talk about the kids and then bringing up our triggers. I have been definitely been able to identify when I'm looking at some responses from my daughter. Okay, what is this showing me? This is
Mm,
triggering me. And I've actually been able to realize that there's some thought patterns coming up in my mind that I'm like, you're allowed to do that, but I was never allowed to do that. And then I kind of remember
mm,
my parents like, well, you can't complain. You have no idea how hard it is. And I'm like, wow, this is interesting how the generational shit gets passed on. And I've had to witness and go, I could easily go, you're not allowed to feel because you have it so good and you have no idea how hard it is and da 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 da. And
mm,
being able to witness, fuck, I need to end that. So,
mm.
but that's really hard when my subconscious or unconscious?
Yeah, subconscious.
Wants subconscious wants to respond when my emotions are heated and high,
Mm,
and yet then my mind's like my gut and my intuition's like no no no, do different.
mm.
I don't know how to do different, but I
Yeah.
can feel that I need to be different, and then I there's moments where I just shut down because I'm like
Hmm.
I and then I react and blow up, and I'm like fuck, I'm gonna fuck her up. Like I'm gonna fuck my kids up. Fuck. Like I didn't want to react. So yeah, you know what I'm trying to say.
Oh yeah, yeah. The quote unquote conscious parent's dilemma, right? It's shit's real. And again, then you go and you try to numb out on Instagram and you get 45 reels telling you all this parenting shit you should be doing. Like it's hectic, right? And goes back to that the G word, grace, right? Give yourself grace. Because even that, okay, my parents did this to me. I've got to end it. It's like that's a pretty heavy cross to carry. Do you know what I mean? Okay, it's up to me to end all of this generational trauma and cycles and da da da. I'm like, yeah, okay, like, but it's a pretty significant burden to carry. Yeah, in this modern day and age, and like how challenging parenting is. And so the first thing is giving yourself grace, right? Because anything we do through the lens of judgment is going to reinforce the very pattern that we're trying to break. So if I'm judging myself into parenting better, I'm reinforcing that pattern of not enoughness that started way back when I was a kid. I can't break a pattern if I'm in within the pattern. Does that make sense? So it's like, oh, anything I'm doing from this space of judgment about myself and that pressure, right? It's not going to work. It's not going to last. And so being willing to give myself grace, I'm doing the best I can with what I've got. Yeah. Is a start point before we try any tools or tricks or strategies. Because to change anything, we need awareness, right? Three things we need to change anything: awareness, acceptance, and then aligned action. Awareness of the problem, awareness of what's going on right now, acceptance, and then a new action based on what I want to create. Most people go awareness and then judgment. Oh, I'm feeling triggered or shut down. Oh, fuck, I'm going to fuck her up. I'm going to fuck my kids up. It's awareness and then judgment. And then we try to do something to correct it because we feel bad about that self judgment. Yeah. And that's why we just fucking cycle. We just cycle, 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 cycle. And then guess what? Our kids are just going to cycle, 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 cycle. Like the breaking the generational patterns isn't doing some 5-step gentle parenting fucking thing. It's giving ourselves grace. And that's not letting ourselves off the hook so we can do whatever the hell we want. But it's like actually be like, hang on, no, I'm doing the best I can. Like truly with what I've got. And then what happens, something interesting happens is we start to extend that grace to our parents as well. Because when you start doing this work, you learn all this developmental psychology stuff in a child, and then you're like, oh, hang on a second, my parents fucked me up. Fuck you guys. And there can be a laugh, but like there can be some real anger. There can be like, how the fuck could you, especially when you have kids and kids are so precious and little, and it's like, hang on, I was this once, how could you have done that to me, or etc. And there can be a lot of judgment. And I went through this. I feel like everybody goes through this when you start to learn this stuff. And as long as we are judging and criticizing our parents, we'll be internalizing that to some extent as well. And so this isn't, especially if there's anything like significantly traumatic or like, gnarly shit goes down, and you don't want to rush to the forgiveness part, because then you're just sort of bypassing the hurt, but get the support to process it properly. Because if we're holding all of that anger, judgment, or whatever towards our parents, we will be internalizing it to some extent as well. Because whether we like it or not, the apple doesn't fall as far from the tree as we would like to think. We think it does because we've done all this work and we can use all these new words, and we're doing it different until we're overstimulated as fuck. And then we say the exact same thing our mum did or our dad did. And it comes out of our mouth and we're like, oh my God, that was my dad. And then we're even more judgmental because we're internally raging at them, and then we're being them. And so it's just this cycle of fuckery, right? And so we really need to start to give ourselves grace and do the work. And again, don't rush to forgiveness, especially if there was anything like significantly traumatic. Like, get support with this. But that's the place where we need to get to. Yeah. Because all of the tools and the tricks and the tactics and all of that, unless it's on the top of this layer of grace that we're giving ourselves and self-forgiveness, then it won't last. It lasts until you're triggered again, and then it goes out the window, right? So yeah, that's the first thing I wanted to offer before I like continue on my tangent that I tend to do. Yeah, anything coming up for you there, or anything you want to ask there, or should I get into some more tactical stuff?
Yeah, get into more tactical stuff.
Yeah, cool. So then how that looks for me is, how quickly can I drop the self-judgment, right? Because this happens. We're going to be triggered by our kids, and if we might say or do something that we're like, fuck, that was too harsh, or that was whatever. We need to be like practice dropping that and shifting our state into a more regulated state, because often we're dysregulated and we're operating from part of our mind that it's in that fight or flight, right? And so we're not thinking coherently. We're not in adult psychology. We're in reactive child psychology, trying to parent a reactive child. And then we end up going at it. Like sometimes, like, yeah, it's hilarious when you can be a fly on the wall, some of the interactions, especially when they get even older. Like Rafi's 5 now. And I'm like, there was 30 seconds where I was a 5-year-old child duking it out with my 5-year-old child. Do you know what I mean? And it's just like, hang on a second. Yeah. And so it's recognizing like, whoa, I'm dysregulated here. And then what do I need to come back to my center? What do I need to regulate myself? Right. And so that's knowing some tools and knowing some things that I can do that are going to help. And it's not going to be perfect, especially if you're, parenting solo, if your parents at work or whatever. Like, what you need is half an hour away from your fucking kids. But if that's not available, it's like, okay, we're inside. We need to go outside. I need to get my feet on the grass. We need to go for a walk. When did I last eat? Right? Have I not eaten in 5 hours? Okay, good luck. Just like your kids are going to lose their shit if they haven't eaten, like so are you. Like, what do I actually need here to come back into a bit more of a calmer space? And it's not, we've got the ideals, and then it's like, it's the 5% rule again. How can I scale things back here? I'm revving really high. How can I scale things back here? Like, what's required? And do those things before we try to correct any behavior, right? It's like connect before we correct. Unless we can sort of calm ourselves down and connect with the child, then we're not going to be able to employ any sort of corrective advice or behavior or anything like that that's going to actually land. And so, yeah, learning to self-regulate, self-soothe, and knowing what we require for that, that's the ticket. And herein lies the biggest challenge, because most people are doing it without family support, their partner's away at work, and it's like we're doing it in unsustainable ways. It's like you put a fish in a fish pond and the water isn't designed for that fish, right? And then the fish is swimming around being like, why am I getting sick all the time? Like, why am I struggling in this fish pond? Like, this sucks. Maybe it's me. Maybe there's something I'm doing, right? And it's actually like, look at the environment. Look at the water that we're swimming in. Yeah. And we can't be a victim to that and be like, oh, well, there's nothing I can do. But it's just holding that awareness. That is also what can help us give ourselves grace. It's like, of course, you're fucking struggling. Of course, you're overstimulated and reactive. Like, look at look at the environment. Look at what's going on here. Yeah. And then start to put things in place as best we can to be able to come back to our center, be able to regulate, right? And then use what you've got. If you've got grandparents around, like your parents, use those. If you've got care, get support in whatever way you can. If the only way you can get support is letting your kid watch 3 episodes of Trash Truck for half an hour, but you're a no screen family, but you're also melting down and exploiting at your kids every hour, it's like, oh, hang on a second. Maybe that's actually a net positive outcome. And that's all I've got right now. Do you know what I mean? Like, I obviously try to minimize all of that stuff, what we do in our family, and we use it as a tool. Like, we don't live near family. And if Kat's on day 2 of our cycle and I've got to be at work for things, it's like, cool, this is the net positive outcome for the family unit. Yeah. So yeah, there's a few things there. I could go on, but I'm also, yeah, conscious of the rants.
No, I really thank you for sharing that. I've definitely found that going into parenthood, especially in the conscious space, that I have built up all of this pressure to do everything perfect, like just all of it. Yeah, the no screens and the perfect food all the time, and definitely the second kid definitely humbles you, and I can only imagine it will just continue to humble
Big
you.
time. That was a big one for me. One, I feel like we had a lot of spaciousness with our business, and I feel like our first kid, we had a beautiful transition. Our second, like the first year of 2 kids, was my initiation for sure.
Yeah, I feel like I'm in the thick of it now. I feel like there's a lot of like ego death. Like, I know that's such an overused word on social media, but I was thinking about it this morning. I was like, no, it's actually happening. Like, I can
Mm.
feel everything I thought I once knew, and I've literally realized I know nothing at all. That's how I start. That episode starting is it's true. Like, and
Yeah.
I I'm open to sharing that because it's like
Mm.
fuck. Like, what I thought I didn't want to raise my kids on specific foods and this, and I'm getting to the point I'm like, do you know what? Like, you just have to choose what's easy sometimes. And
Yeah.
I've spoken about this on the podcast before, even about iPad. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
so heavily against having an iPad just because
Mm-hmm.
and it's the black and white thing, right? And I'm realizing it that it's like we love black and white. We love either like
Mm-hmm.
are a full screen family. You're at your kids at the shops and it's on your phone or the iPad, and you go out for dinner
Yeah.
and the kids on the iPad, and then they're at home and they're just watching the TV, and so you
Mm-hmm.
associate screen with that. And then there's the other swing of the pendulum where it's like, no, we don't even have a TV and we don't have no screens and da 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 da. And it's like, oh, realizing I'm like, fuck, do you know how much easier it would be if on some long drives we just put a movie on?
Yeah, the part of us, especially like, and if a lot of your audience are similar to yourself in terms of that, operator women, strong, independent, maybe hints of perfectionism, right? If that's running there, it's like you cannot be the perfect partner or perfect parent, and you are going to be humbled until you accept that. Because we think we can be the perfect partner, and then our first child comes along, and then all of a sudden we're a bit of a shit partner a lot of the time. And it's like, oh, fuck, that's heavy. And then we think we can be the perfect parent, and then our second child comes along, and then it's like, oh, shit, I'm not the perfect parent. And so this is that giving ourselves grace thing. It's coming back to the part of us that thought we had to be perfect to receive love, right? And I know we're getting like pretty deep here, but that part of us, and it's not even needs to be die. It's like ego death, kill the ego. It's like, no, that part of us needs to be loved, not judged. Like that protective part of us, yeah, we need to give it a new job description, because if it keeps trying to do what it's done, it's just going to result in more suffering. And yeah, loving that part of us and creating safety for the part of us that developed those protective strategies, that's how we reparent ourselves. That's how we stop being as triggered by our kids. Yeah. Because our kids being a certain way is like a mirror of us not being a perfect parent. It's like, hang on, I'm doing everything. I'm feeding you the organic food. You're not watching a screen. You're not doing all this stuff. You have no right to be upset at me right now. because I'm a perfect parent. And if you're upset, you're really getting in the way of this fucking image that I'm trying to create here. Okay. And I'm not going to put this part on Instagram. I'm just going to put my fucking meals that I just made for you on Instagram because then everybody else thinks I'm a perfect parent. But in the shadows, in those quiet times, I know that I fucked up today like 5 times, and I'm too scared to admit that. And so yeah, this part of us that needs to be a certain way because that's how I'm gonna get love. That part will continue to be humbled until we can like love it, like truly love it. And yeah, that's why it's so epic that you are like sharing this stuff and having these conversations because it's fucking epidemic, right? The perfect parent myth, the perfect partner myth. It's like it's part of the biggest impact. Like and I'd love to hear your take on this. But what I'm seeing time and time again in the relationship mastery program is just couples hearing other couples fucking struggling. That on the surface, all these couples are successful, they're awesome, do you know what I mean? And then behind the scenes, it's like it's a grind and it's really, really hard. And then when you see that it's the same for all these other people, you're like, oh, oh, I feel so much better already, right? And so it's just, yeah, it's just embracing our humanness and our flaws because we get rewarded for not having them and not showing them. And it's just not the case, right? Everybody's got their weaknesses, everybody's got their struggles, right? Myself included, even though I teach this shit, it's like, yeah, everybody's got it. And until we can stop pretending that we don't, we're going to struggle.
There's a lot of layers to the depths of like the things that have been coming up for me recently, and I'm like, fuck, I just can't keep up with sharing it. And because and I wonder this with yourself, that when you do have a social media presence and you do share the good within your life, because honestly becoming a mum was the greatest and most incredible experience of my life. I was so, and when I say was, I still am, but when I first became a mum, I was like high on life. And as time progressed, I left my career, and then it was like having to relearn who I was. And now it's like I constantly feel, especially that I share on social media, and I feel like
Mm,
I always wonder, and I'll talk about this with my friends. I want to be authentic and I want to make sure that I'm sharing, like, I'm struggling, or we ate this today and it wasn't ideal, but I didn't give a shit. We enjoyed it. Like it was,
mm-hmm,
and it, and I'm like peeling back the onions of going, I put all this pressure and expectations on myself because I do see as a society that we have lowered the bar of, and,
mm-hmm,
I do feel like we could claim responsibility of our lives and our children's lives a lot more than what we do.
mm-hmm,
So I put all this expectation on myself to be this perfect person in all the areas,
mm-hmm,
and realizing I actually took a few months off a few months ago of just really stepping back, and especially after having my second and being like, who am I and what do I love?
mm.
And one of the things that came up for me when I asked that question was, I really love Tim Tams. I really love food. Like, I love all food.
Mm,
I don't just love, I couldn't just be a carnivore. I couldn't just be a vegan. I
mm,
couldn't just
mm,
sit through that.
mm,
I love food, and I love when people cook for me. And I was able to recognize, like, I especially about social media, about learning and teaching all the ingredients and low tox living. Did you know that this about this? And really on social media, everything's bad.
mm-hmm,
And I have been able to recognize, I'm like, fuck, like I love food. I love all
mm,
food.
mm,
And like, fuck, like then it's like, wow, I've really got some talking to do about
mm,
this, because I I can see that I would have shared a lot about food in a judgmental way. Like, we can't eat this.
mm,
This is so bad for our kids. Cereals full of heavy metals and
mm,
fucking rah, 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 rah. And it's like, like I've just been thinking about this lately about
mm,
far out, I've got some apologizing to do. And then I go into like, oh, I need to share on social media, because I'm like, I don't want to be in disconnect from like, if people are following along that journey, I don't want them
mm,
to feel like disconnect from that but then I'm also in the thing of like, I don't have time. That's why this podcast is really good. But do you know what I'm
Yeah.
talking about?
Fuck
Connect with
yeah.
social media.
Yeah, yeah. And it's like it's taking the pressure off because like the way you're sharing it there, this has been another way that you are putting expectations on yourself to show up perfectly. What's the
Yeah.
perfect amount of authenticity on social media? And you're like, see, yeah, it's just another lens for the same story to propagate, right? And so I believe in personal responsibility, and I believe it's the responsibility. If you're going to be on an app, if you're an adult, right, a consensual adult, you're responsible for what you consume, right? And like the algorithm, like, yeah, it's a powerful technology that will suck you in, and if you're not intentional, will mess with your head, right? I cannot take on the responsibility. Like I think like 13,000 people follow me or something like that. I can't take responsibility for 13,000 people's consumption, right? And so, yes, we want to be authentic. What does that even mean? And how authentic can you truly be? Unless you're live streaming 24/7, you can't be fully authentic. And so it's like, okay, by that definition, then we are being selective about what we share. And then what feels good for me to share? Yeah. And so it's about, because the pendulum can go both ways and you see it. It's like they're just the highlight reel. And then it's like also people just sharing all this gnarly shit that's going on for them. And I'm like, there is no proof that that is better for you or the people following you. Yeah, you might create connection or whatever, but yeah. So it's just being taking the pressure off. I think, that's like the common theme. It's like, and if it feels good for you to be sharing, like that seems like a big transition, then it's like, sure, share it, but share it from a place of compassion, not because you're judging the part of you that shared all the perfect food, right? Because again, awareness, acceptance, aligned action, not awareness, judgment, fuck, try and make it right. Yeah. Because that's how we actually create those shifts for ourselves. And so yeah, social media, it's a funny one. Like yeah, obviously have built a personal brand, so I've shared lots of stuff, and it's checking ourselves. Like it's okay to share, quote unquote, the highlight reel, and it's just making sure like we don't buy into the fact that that means we're perfect, right? Because that's when it's like, oh, like I'm sharing about fatherhood or relationship. Like I'm a relationship coach, for God's sake. It's like me and Kat still have conflict. Like we're just way better at resolving it and repairing it and all of that. But as if I'm going to have a relationship that is free of any sort of disconnect. Imagine if I judged myself, and I hold myself to a really high standard. Don't worry, I'm a recovering perfectionist. Yeah. But I've had to learn this in a massive way. I've been humbled a lot in this space because, yeah, all these things you're talking about were very, very present for me. And so, yeah, what we share, how we share it, but not taking repeat responsibility for other people's experience and perceptions, right? And it's like if we feel that we've shared something out of alignment with our values and we want to shit, like we want to, you know, make up for that kind of thing, or we want to like correct that or share what's alive for us now, cool, do that. But as again, everybody's doing the best they can with what they've got. When you were sharing all the perfect recipes and stuff, you're doing the best you could with what you've got, right? And now you've got different, you've got new awareness, you've been through another initiation, you've got different things to share. Cool, share that, right? We all have the right to change our minds. Like used to bang the drum of no screens, and now you're like, nah, fuck no, iPads for drives that are longer than 2 hours. That's what I'm about. Like whatever it is, it's because, and there's lots of evidence for this, like the state we're in when we're eating the food has more of an impact on our digestion and how we assimilate the nutrients than the food itself, right? It's like if we're relaxed and joyful, we're going to be healthier than if we're scared and anxious, but eating all the right foods. Yeah, it's the same thing with consuming social media, right? If we're posting all the right stuff and following all the right accounts, but our whole experience of it is through judgment and anxious and rightness, we're not going to have a good time. Whereas if we're just like a bit more relaxed, and it's knowing thyself, right? Because some people, and I work with people at both ends of the spectrum, are slack and do need to get their shit together. And it's like, you're a fucking parent. Like, pull your head in. Do you know what I mean? Like, this is a huge responsibility. And other people need to just relax, like fucking chill. You know, you're one of those people. You're at that end of the spectrum. Do you know what I mean? Like, chill. You're
I
good.
wondered where I sit on the spectrum.
Right? Yeah, that end. Yeah, the chill end. You need to chill, right? Because it's
Yeah.
yeah, we're all so unique. It's like knowing thyself. It's like, oh, my pattern is to overdo things. Okay. I'm not going to die from chilling a bit. I'm probably going to be healthier. My kids are probably going to be better off. Yep. Because my where I let the bar slip to is probably still sweet. Do you know what I mean? And what will happen is you're going to chill for too long. You're going to be, the kids are going to be smashing cereal and you're going to be like, yeah, screens all week. Like you'll let and then you'll course correct again. Like, okay, I'll let the reins go a little bit there. All right, let's pull it back in a bit. Let's have a detox. Let's go no screens for a week. Let's go camping. Let's rein it in a bit. And then, do you know what I mean? It's like we want to know the right way. What's the right way? Tell me how to do it. How do I structure my day? What's my fucking morning routine? How do I set up my week? And then I've got it. And then it's like that forever. It's just not how it works. Yeah. It's like it's always moving. The seasons are always there. It's like, what happens if, heaven forbid, a loved one dies next week? It's like, I'm going to have way less capacity for cooking organic meals every meal. I'm going to so that season is going to require different of me. So it's like, what season am I in? What's the best that I can do here? Cool. I love myself in that. Right. Do I need support? Like we're always course correcting. And if we need to let the reins go, let the reins go. And we'll get the feedback that we need to tighten things again. Like, because we know. Do you know what I mean? And this is where having mentorship or coaches or a women's circle or a men's circle or people around us that will just keep us on track better. Things won't slip as far either which way when we've got people around us that we're, aligned values and we can have those conversations with. We're able to course correct a lot better.
I love that. Thanks so much, Tully. Where can everybody find you?
Instagram's a good place. Yeah, so Instagram, I'm just Tully O'Connor. I've also got a Substack, so there's podcast and some articles over there. It's free to subscribe there. So if you just search my name and Substack, you'll find me there. Yeah, those are the two main places I would say. I've got a podcast as well. I haven't uploaded episodes in quite a while, but there's about 58 episodes or something there called the Thriving in Fatherhood podcast. Lots of good stuff, lots of epic conversations with good humans. So if you're approaching parenthood or in the thick of it, like half my listeners over there are women. So even though it's Thriving in Fatherhood, there's lots of good stuff there as well. Yeah, those would be the best spots.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Tully, for joining us today.
My pleasure.